we are. I think we're live. I think we're live streaming. Hello, everybody. Hello, world. I hope everyone is safe and healthy out there. We are playing around with some new equipment here at the Ropeadope room. My name is Louis. It is just a wonderful, wonderful time to be alive on planet Earth, and I say that because as I was preparing for this program, I got a chance to listen through some of the wonderful music that women have delivered to Ropeadope over the last 20 years. We came in and heard from Tin Hat Trio, the great Carla Kilstead, from all the way back in 2001 or 2002, I believe. One of my early favorites when I first discovered Ropeadope. And then followed that with an album from maybe 2010, 2011, Kate Faust from University of the Arts in the great city of Philadelphia, and the band Lady, which was just coming in at the time of Google search and turned out to be a very, very difficult name to find. Anyway, I'm here, and we are celebrating International Women's Day and kicking off Women's History Month. I'm joined by my dear friend Fabian Brown. Fabian, how are you?
Louis, I'm grateful to be here. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I got a lot of bells and whistles going on here. I'm hoping that this is coming through on the feed. I hope somebody out there is checking it. It seems to be working from here. I'm seeing audio. If you can see this place now, it's insane. It's a full-on live television switching studio, all done with less than $2,000 of equipment, thanks to ATEM, and we are not Black Magic, who is not sponsoring us, by the way. But we have some guests coming on. Let me tell you what's happening today. We're going to play music from Women of Ropeadope throughout the show, and we're going to welcome some very special guests. We have, and then Fabian and I are basically just going to get the hell out of the way. That's the whole point. But welcome first in Italy, my dear friend, Lisa Marie Simmons. How are you, Lisa?
Oh, Louis, I'm so good, and I'm always happy when I see your face. And hello to Fabian as well. To everyone who's here, it's really, really great to be here.
Beautiful. How are things in Italy? While we're here, we have to address the subject in everyone's room, and that is everyone safe and healthy? Are we surviving over there?
We are, and it is safe and healthy. Unfortunately, we are I'm in Lombardia, as you know, and we are under another lockdown, and it's heading towards red. You know, they've divided it into yellow, orange, red, with red obviously being the worst, and it looks like they're going to go for another total lockdown. So that's our future. Yeah, I had some gigs canceled that had sort of tried to get on board again with some festivals in the UK, and I got a message this week that no, that's not going to happen. It's a little too early yet to hope for that. So that's happening. But that said, I think that people are approaching it a little bit differently this time than the last time. There's a lot more hope because the vaccine is rolling out.
Good.
And people are getting vaccinated. So, yeah, it's not as bad as it could be.
Good to hear that it's not as bad as it could be. And I'll give you a cosmic sign of hope. Today,
please do.
Today, just today, for some reason, out of the blue, things that I've been waiting for close to 6 months happened on the same day. I got my vaccine appointment, and then my passport came back in the mail. My passport renewal.
Yes.
So.
Because you're going to come to Italy and see me.
That's right. I'm booking a flight and getting out. So speaking of travel, let's jump over to, I believe, Tel Aviv. Correct me if I'm wrong. Ariel Bart, how are you?
Hey, Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm good. It's good to be here.
It's good to see you. For everyone's information, Ariel has a record coming out on Ropeadope sometime this year. And I kicked off the show with Tin Hat Trio because when I first heard Ariel's music, I felt like that was one of the first things that I thought of. But let's get to topics of conversation. It is, I have some questions, but I really would like the women that are here and throughout the day today to please say as much as you're comfortable with saying about what this is all about. We're here to learn from you. I heard a thing on a podcast the other day, and it was just another little thing that had never occurred to me. And I believe it was Amy Poehler on a podcast, and she said, when a woman goes out in public, she represents all women, meaning that people will make a comment, and then that would therefore apply to every woman on the planet, right? And that was not something that I even thought about in the process of thinking about this. I wonder if we can start there, and you can talk a little bit about what Women's Day, Women's History Month, and what can we learn? What can you teach us? We'll start with Lisa.
Wow.
Big question.
Yeah, I just jumped in, right? That's a.
Uh-oh.
It's very much like the BIPOC community, trying to represent your entire race. I think that's the same thing with gender, right? There's so many different stories. There's so many different realities, and it's not possible to represent everyone, and it leads to problems because there's something about our society today, especially that people want this sort of black and white, this division, like it's good or it's evil, and as soon as you try to start a dialogue, you get stuck into one of those categories, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's and you want to represent all of womanhood, but that said, there's also the discussion of how, though we've made so much progress, there's still so many things that are wrong with the way that we view women in society today. I was looking at some numbers earlier about it's like 13% of like the high C-level jobs of CEOs and high management. It's like 13% or even less that are women, and across also in governments across the world. The percentage is so incredibly low. And so despite the fact that so many inroads have been made, there is a lot to be said to continue trying to make more. Mm-hmm. I sort of went off topic there, but... Yeah.
Not at all. When I referenced the comment of representing all women, I recognized in myself there's like this hidden bias that I have that I hadn't discovered yet. Mm-hmm. That in some way I've been taught to see someone on the screen. I mean, not so much on the street in day to day, but on screen, and look at a particular behavior and start to classify right away. Like that's what I've been taught to do. So I have to stop doing that. And it's for the public, it's joyful. It's joyful to recognize an inherent bias in yourself and to get over it and start working it. It's kind of like it's the beginning of the healing, So, Ariel, would you like to comment on this subject
while
you're
there? And not just you.
Go on.
Yeah, I'm here. So I think it's pretty heavy statement when you first said this. I mean, when you first said this sentence, I was thinking to myself, wow, I don't want to take it on myself to represent all the women. I mean, I represent myself. I'm a woman, I'm an harmonica player, I'm an Israeli, I'm this combination, and I'm a woman. And I remember, like, earlier in my life, I was thinking, I grew up in this musician community, and obviously most of my friends are men and my teachers were men. And it's much deeper than that, because I remember thinking it might be that I adjusted my personality to fit in this community unconsciously. It affected my body language, my sense of humor, and I can't see it right now because it's much deeper than what I'm doing today and the way I communicate with my friends. So, yeah.
I understand. Well said. Lisa, you had a comment that you wanted to?
If I did have a comment about what you were saying before about your own bias, and I think it's not just a male called Sheryl Sandberg, and it's why we have too few women leaders. And in it, she talks about the fact that she's giving this talk explaining about these kinds of biases. And as she's giving the talk, at the end of the talk, she asks if anybody has any questions, and people raise their hands. And at the end of everything, she's in the green room, and there's a lot of women who said, well, you only called on men at the end of the talk. You know, so even though she's there to talk about this, and she owned it, I mean, she went and said, I can't believe I did that.
Wow.
But it's just indoctrinated in us as a society, you know. She talks about, you know, having the courage to go up and take a seat at the table, but then if you're not recognized, even by women, then it's really difficult. So it just struck me, just reminded me of that TED Talk when your comment.
That's fascinating.
It's something that it's just like racism. It's something we all have to actively fight against, all of us.
I hear you. I had the pleasure of interviewing Igmar Thomas recently from the Revived Big Band, and one of the questions that I had was, how do you think this is resolved? And that's something I do want to talk about throughout today. But his response was so bright. He said, "It's happening. The great unraveling, the illumination of humanity is happening right now." And the fact that we're even, going online in a public way and saying, "Yes, I have a bias," and yes, I recognize these things within myself, and yes, I'm working. So it's he pointed out the 1,000th monkey. Some people say 100th, and some people say 1,000th. The theory that when you reach the theory is, and I'll butcher this, but that when the animal learns a new behavior, by the time you get to the 1,000th one, every member of the species from then on knows that skill. So it doesn't have to happen. Everybody, it will. It is happening, was his perspective, and I thought that was very positive. Not to say that there's not a lot of work to be done. Let's jump over. I'm getting a little glitch on your Wi-Fi, Lisa. I don't know if there's anything that can be done to improve that, with the exception of maybe turning off some other applications on your computer. Not sure if that'll help.
Yeah, maybe I'll do that.
But I'm going to cue up now some music from Steph Tom, aka Crown, and we'll listen a little and we'll talk some more. We'll just figure out how to do this properly.
Lady in waiting is all I have come to know.
Yeah, we're good. We're good on the stream, and I don't hear it in the room, but I see it.
It's all I've come to show. When, do I get my go? I want the roller coaster. Without it is a deeper hole. No, no. No love for me, yet I've got it going on. Sexuality stops me from being the one. No, no, no. Never give it on the first time. Liberation's there. Keep your passions out of sight. This is the woman's way. Lady in waiting,
Okay.
that's all I
Looks like it's restarted.
have come to know. Vicarious living is all I've come to show. When, do I get my go? I want the roller coaster. Without it is a deeper hole. No, no. No love for me, yet I've got it going on. Sexuality stops me from being the one. No, no, no. Never give it on the first time. Liberation's there. Keep your passions out of sight. This is the woman's way. This is the woman's way. Prisoner of dirty, you can't have it, it's against the law. Ooh. You want something serious, empty thoughts. No, no. Well, 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 well.
Well, we're experiencing some new errors. I am the sum of my actions. My actions are my only true belongings. We're learning how this all works. So sorry for that little glitch. This is my first time running full production switch on ATEM, and it has its little nuances that I'm a hands-on kind of learner, so you all have to experience that with me. We did do some rehearsals, but different things happen in real time. We are back with. I want to say hi to David Whitman in San Diego, and when we talk about people who are paying attention and looking at their own inherent biases and trying to get with this, the enlightenment of humanity and forward motion, I have to say that David is consistently supportive and looking forward. So, hi, David. How are you?
Hey, doing great. Those were really nice words, and they all come from my mother, which is, why I'm here, because she tried to open my mind. I spent the morning listening to Gillian Margot, and I think it's "Black is the Color of My True Love's Hair" with Ingrid Jensen. Mm-hmm. And there's another really inspiring artist, and it's so hard to be an artist at all, let alone an artist and a woman in today's world. I can only imagine. And so I don't want to say too much more and take up much of their air. But I would say that this festival is a little bit in conjunction with Bandcamp Day, and I think that anybody who's listening out there should be running to purchase albums from female jazz musicians of all
That's a great
all labels, and and not just jazz, but artists in general, because it's a difficult thing to do.
That's a great cue for me to take on my pitch role. So I want to point out that first that we do have an interview coming up where Gillian Margot interviews Ingrid Jensen, and they will be visiting with us at 3:30 Eastern time. So there's some great content in there.
Pass on to her. I had a chance to play with Ingrid like maybe 20 years ago or so when I was young, to perform with her, and it was so inspirational for me to get to play with her, and if that pops up during that interview, thank you very much, Ingrid.
There you go.
And
there you
all
go.
the years of inspiration to listen to your music.
We will pass it along, and we'll point out that I think, Fabian, we've got some folks putting Bandcamp links in the thread. Lisa Marie Simmons' wonderful project Notespeak is available on Bandcamp, and it is Bandcamp Day. High quality downloads, CDs, and gift it, buy it, download it, support. This is very important. Art doesn't make itself. These are the people that do it, and that's how you support them. We've had a great time in the last 6 to 8 months watching fans get more supportive and more involved with artists. And if you're not familiar with Bandcamp, there's an app, so you can literally jump on the app and respond in real time to an artist's comments on the app, ask questions, artists will respond. It's pretty much a green room hang if you know how to use it, so I'd suggest that you do that. And of course, everything that we play today is available. Downloads.ropeadope.com has music from, what you said earlier about the 13%, Lisa, I do have to say, as I was scrolling through, and I'm like, that's about right. 87% of the records that we've put out are generally with a male band leader. figure, and a lot of the women who are present are guest vocalists or guest players, but there are also quite a few female band leaders, performers, doing their own thing. And I dig deep in that question. Why does that happen? I think somebody said, you have to be careful what you say these days, right? But fortunately for me, if you could just go on Twitter and wherever, somebody's going to put their foot in their mouth before I do, right? And somebody said, somebody said, well, we just don't get that many submissions, and I could easily sit here and say that, and because it is in fact true. I mean, I sit and open my email, and records come in, and and I ask myself, do I go to the woman who submitted it and favor that just for that reason? And the answer to that is sometimes yes. Exactly for that reason, especially when you're at a record label and you may get the second, third, fourth, fifth record from an artist. So there's time to grow, and we have the platform and the ability to do that. So, that is a consideration at the same time. But also, I need to know how to do more. And I think I would love to see the women at the label referring more people, bringing their peers, women to the label. So that's exciting. I'm going to try this one more time, but I do want to offer the microphone up to you, Lisa, while you're here, or Ariel, if there are things that you want to comment on.
I would agree. Like this idea that about the 13% again, it's a societal problem. It is, I think, a lot of what is considered to be feminine, and again, at this TED Talk that I was talking about earlier, there's this idea that to be effective as a woman, you need to take on what are stereotypically considered to be masculine attributes, right? Which is not even, that's just another construct. But that, I think, is a lot of the reason why some women don't put themselves forward, If you look at Hillary Clinton as an example of a woman who really got trampled on, trying to embrace what sort of traditional masculine role as a leader. But then you look at AOC, Alexandria, and she's changing things in politics. She's allowing herself to be vulnerable, which is a characteristic that is associated with women, but it's a really, especially today, a positive attribute when there's so much disinformation and so much construction around the persona, to see someone and you can feel it hits your heart being real, that makes a difference. So I think, I don't think it's a bad thing that you gravitate towards women when you see the things coming in, because there is such a disproportionate number. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that's a negative thing at all, giving that space. And yeah, I'm happy to bring anyone in as well. And there are a lot of female band leaders out there. I don't know if it's again, it's just the workplace is a at this moment, I want to. So I think that maybe puts the brakes on.
Yeah. I was just going to make a humorous to me remark that, but it does speak to the issue. I remember being a young boy and being required to adopt, quote, masculine attributes in order to be in high school and in jobs. So I understand that, but that speaks to how huge it is. Like how what's the word? Institutionalized or not institution? I'm at a loss, but you get the point.
Systemic.
Systemic. That's it. Yeah, yeah. These are labels that have been put on that we're all supposed to measure up to. Clearly, it was a lot easier for me than it would be for a woman to fit those attributes, or to reject them. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to jump in really quick and maybe say just a couple of things while you guys are here in the room. You know, being a dad, being a husband, and being a father of several children, 4 of which are daughters, right, are females. Times can be tough, and as a dad, trying to help them navigate conversations and situations, it's not easy. And I thank God every day for my amazing wife who can help me with those conversations and navigate that through. But while I have you great people on the line, what would you say to girls today? What should they be reading? What should they be listening to? What should they be, how can we help them think better about the situations that we're here and facing today? Obviously we're celebrating Women's History Month, and I'm sure that every single one of us has someone that we admire, someone that we look up to, someone that has influenced our lives and brought us here to today. What would you say to those little girls growing up, and how would you inspire them? And I would love to hear from anybody that can help me out, because I'm going to take this little clip, I'm going to put all my girls in the room, and we're going to watch this one scene right here, just so I can get some inspiration and motivation. And like I said, I have a wonderful wife. She does a phenomenal job, but when I'm in a room with creatives, it's just a different mindset. It's just a different perspective. So I would love to hear from any of you guys. What should girls be listening to or paying attention, or how should they be thinking? Who should they be looking towards for influence? I would love to hear your comments and your thoughts around that. I know that's a loaded question.
I don't want to be the only one who talks. I want to hear from Alexia, and I want to hear from Ariel. But I will really quickly just say that Michelle Obama is doing great work with young women, and she's someone to look to for her organization. And then there's so many great resources out. There's a book called Rebel Girls, which is so great. That profiles a lot of leading women back through the years. Rebel Girls, really great. What else do I love? There's a magazine called Bright Light Magazine, which is really great for young women as well. And I'm such a fan of TED Talks, and there are a lot all around these conversations that I think are really useful and helpful. And now I'm going to shut up and let somebody else talk. So I feel like I've been hogging this.
I appreciate that, Lisa, a ton. I appreciate your voice and your opinion. And yeah, welcome to the line, Miss Alexia Bontempo, and we have Johanna Burnheart showing up as well. This is just amazing. And we're here with Miss Ariel Bart as well. I'm surrounded by greatness. And Lewis and David left the camera, so it's me and the gang. I love it. I absolutely love it. And just to kind of reset, for you guys who are just hopping here live, we're celebrating Women's History Month with some phenomenal artists. Just a sample of what Ropeadope has represented, in this vein. And I'm just trying to dig for some gold, girls. I'm just trying to find some inspiration here for my little girls. I have a 13-year-old, my Gabriella, she's 10 years old, and I have a little one who's 6. So what would you say to the young youth? And I have an older daughter too. She's 23 years old, and then the rest of the boys. Okay. So, but all the boys are grown up and out of the house. So literally it's like me, my poor son, and then all the girls, right? So we are definitely the minority in the house. I'm such a good husband and I'm such a good dad. I listen very, very well. but yeah, what kind of advice would you give, the younger generation of girls?
Hey everyone, I'll jump in. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Oh, Fabian, you're such an inspiration. I love hearing you talk, and I love hearing all your stories about family, and it really touches my heart every time I hear these stories. So,
Thank you.
I mean, I will definitely agree with Lisa there on Michelle Obama and some of the podcasts that you mentioned, the TED Talks. I'm a big fan of Life Kit on NPR. I don't know if you guys listen to that one, but it's like random things, and there are a lot of shows that are about this theme as well, just, being a woman, what it means to be a woman in several aspects of life and situations. So I think that's an interesting place to check out if you're kind of into podcasts and radio and that stuff. I would say though that, I mean, this might sound a little cliche, but I love cliche things, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think that the most important thing is to listen to yourself. Like, yes, look up to other people and find that inspiration in others, but I'm still like far from knowing who I am. It's like a daily thing. I think we're all there, but it's so important to just listen to your heart and that little voice inside you that nobody else can control, that nobody else understands or knows. That's unique to yourself. And when something's right, when something is wrong. That's human nature. But being a woman is hard. It's very hard. And being a young woman in today's world, a young girl in this world of so much information, so much misinformation, so many distractions and places to go to with your eyeballs, and it's very complicated. How do you even know what your voice is if there's so many different influences everywhere? So I would suggest literature and books and music, of course, art. I know your daughters are a little bit young for this, but maybe in a couple of years, a 13-year-old could read this author. I don't know if any of the other women or the men here in the room might be reading this author, but have you guys read Elena Ferrante, Italian author? No. I'm kind of obsessed right now. I went down this, I've just been engrossed, and she kind of took over my life for the last couple of weeks. I can't really do anything else. It's crazy. She's this incredible Italian author. Well, we think she is a woman because she writes under a pseudonym, so nobody even knows who she is, which I find amazing in this day and age, that you can still be an artist and completely hide from the world. But she's been getting a lot of attention lately. There's a series called the Neapolitan Novels, and the first book is called My Brilliant Friend. There are 4 books. And it's a book about female friendship. And it follows the story of these 2 women who are friends from like the age of 6 until the age of 60. And it touches on so many aspects of being a woman and being a little girl and growing up, obviously in a different time, a different place. This is like in the 50s and the 60s in Italy, but it's a universal story about belonging and about trying to understand who you are and trying to find your place in the world. And a very, I think, very true portrait of female friendship, which is very complicated. And so I would definitely suggest reading Ferrante when the appropriate age comes. But, Fabian, you could definitely recommend it to your sons who are older. I think everybody should read it because it will give you a very good understanding of what kind of goes on in here, that, it's
I will
really complicated.
I will take all of the understanding on what goes on in here that I can grab, and that's
exactly.
That's awesome. I really appreciate
so I would
that.
say literature, art, music, and look up to some role models in politics and people that are trying to do beautiful things in the world.
I love it, and I see we're back with Mr. Lewis Marks at Ropeadope HQ, and I would love to hear everyone else's comments. But before we jump into that, Lewis, do you want to? I know we're kind of flying by the seats of our pants here. Do you want to head into some music? I think we had some music queued up from Miss Alexia Bontempo.
We do. I'm going to switch this over to some tracks from the folks that have just joined us, and we'll bracket this. We'll play something from Johanna Burnheart and Alexia's video, and also from Yazz Ahmed. So bear with me, and I'll see if I can do this properly.
day grows long. Every breath alive and still beneath the pull of the shadows' song. Falling familiar traces of the memory return. Chill of the season foregone. Here now, space within a sound, renewal from the ground, human or profound, too long for silence in between. Existence here is evergreen.
All right. We are back in the room right here. Welcome back. We're here at the Ropeadope Music and Arts Festival edition. I don't know what, season whatever. We've been doing this a while in quarantine, and I think we'll keep doing it long after quarantine is over. I am just checking some settings here to make sure everything's well. I'm going to welcome back to the room Mr. Fabian Brown. Mr. Brown, how are you?
Listen, I am in my glory right now. We have some phenomenal people in the room. We just heard some great music. I'm like on an 11 out of 10, so I'm doing great. I'm doing fantastic.
Excellent, excellent. I'm going to toggle some more settings here. Got to get us to full screen. Yes, we do have some wonderful people in the room, and it looks like we are, in fact, still live and everything is working. All the bells and whistles. We heard, if I can recall, we heard a track from Johanna Burnheart. Kind of came in a little late on that as I did the switch. My apologies, Johanna. But we got that going. Her album is available on Bandcamp. You can find that on the downloads.ropeadope.com page or at johannaburnhart.bandcamp.com. And then we saw a wonderful new video from Alexia Bontempo from her album, my favorite track from the album, which you well know, and also incredible track from Yazz Ahmed from Polymnia. And I want to remind everybody that all of these albums are available on Bandcamp. Johanna's album is available in CD, vinyl, and high-quality download. And also Yazz Ahmed's album Polymnia is now in its second pressing of vinyl. And if you were one of the people who missed the first pressing, I suggest you don't sleep, because this is very popular. And we saw some of the wonderful images from the booklet. I have no idea whether they came out in order on the slideshow, but you know, not sure how that works. But look, the slideshow is not meant to be the real thing. You have to buy the album and flip through the booklet. And I'd even suggest that you buy a couple, one to use and one to put aside, because what we're finding in the age of COVID and beyond, which we know is going to be with us for some time, that scarcity and quality are the name of the game these days, and vinyl has survived the digital apocalypse and is going to be around for some time. Just the other day, I finally, I have a lot of older brothers and sisters, and they give me things. And so I ended up with an old Mission 775 turntable and a moving coil cartridge, and I finally figured out how to set it all up properly. And Yazz, you were the second album that I put on. The first album that I put on was Mahalia Jackson, and I kind of set down the needle and walked a few steps back to get back to the speakers, and I thought I heard her drop something. Like it literally felt like she was right in the room, and there's just nothing like when you get the right vinyl set up. So suggest that you go there. So welcome everybody. Let's resume the discussion. And I've said enough, so we'll pass it off. Fabian, let me pull up one or two of the things that I wrote down that we wanted to talk about today, at least for me to learn and for our audience to learn. And some folks haven't had a chance to speak yet, so let's go there first. What does International Women's Day and Women's History Month really mean? You know, what can we take from it? Anybody?
A really hard question, yeah. Jump in, Jen, if you have.
Okay, I mean, for me, I think it's, bringing awareness to the world that there are amazing women out there who, don't get recognition that they deserve, and, bringing their voices to the center of the stage. And also, for me, I think it's an opportunity for there to be more visibility of women in, higher roles, amazing artists, composers, poets, etc. Because from my experience, when I was studying music, I didn't see any women on the course that I was studying, no women composers or musicians. So for me, I didn't have those role models, and it made me doubt myself that maybe women aren't intelligent enough or skillful enough to be composers or jazz musicians. So I think International Women's Day is very important to inspire others and to spread, the message that there are amazing women out there. That's for me anyway. That's what I think.
Beautiful. Yep. Johanna, a comment?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very well put. It's funny how I don't know if this is International Women's Day today. I don't think it is, right? It's coming up.
Monday, the 8th. Yeah.
Monday, right.
We're always ahead of the curve, yeah.
Yeah, sure. It's funny how it ties in. Because I at least I'm not aware that we have this kind of a month or a day in Germany, so I didn't really grow up with this, and it doesn't really mean anything to me. But when I came to London, I can't remember when we did Polymnia. Was it 2015 or 14?
15, yeah.
Yeah. That was the first time I remember it was for Women's Day, right? You were commissioned to write this suite, and I was invited to join this giant band of women. And it was amazing. And it was so cool. We played at a big concert hall, and it was just this one gig. And I did think, it's a shame we're just doing this one gig with this insane suite that's just for this one day. And it couldn't be more fitting to do this today, I guess, to play this record as well, because then we did the recordings, and the more you look at the pieces, the more you see who they are dedicated to, and I think that's when it forms for everyone who is influential and who is interesting and who they want to be inspired by, or sometimes you can't choose who you're inspired by, but it's I do find I have to dig more to find women I haven't heard of, who've done important work, especially in the arts. It's obviously just kind of seems to be buried for most of the time, and just like everyone else, I didn't have any role models really growing up, which is fine. I think I didn't think it was missing massively, but obviously then you do at some point start realizing some people actually have like pillars of people they aspire to, and it's maybe easier, I don't know, but then also I feel it somehow makes it easier to stay true to what you're trying to do without being influenced too much by someone else. So I think there can be a balance of some people go all the way imitating how someone else does something, and then kind of miss out the step after where you should try and go away from it and take what is useful for you and find your ingredient, I guess, because no one is the same. We all know that, and it's important to find your uniqueness. And I do find as well, when I look at other artists like the ones that Yazz chose for Polymnia, it's when you think about them and you write something for these people or with these people in mind, it's so interesting what comes out, and it is slightly different to what you would be doing maybe if you wrote something without someone in mind. And can't remember where I looped from just now, the question, but Women's Day, Women's Month, so that's what that I think means to me now. It's more of a community, and it gets mentioned a lot online. Everything's online at the moment, but to me the real life connections are important, and that also ties with your question, Fabian. I think what I would tell younger people is there are so many books and things you listen to. I find I am overwhelmed most of the time. I don't know who I want to listen to, and I think how Michelle Obama puts it as well, the Council of Women, that's the most important thing. So you surround yourself with people that are helpful and are there to lift you up and support what you're trying to do. And that's, I think, most important. And I've been very lucky with people I've been surrounded by. So that's really, I think, choose wisely, I guess. It's maybe not it's not a conscious choice, maybe, but it's really helpful to have the right people around you, for sure.
Alexia, do you have a comment?
On just what International Women's Day means in general, or
anything
you want to
throw into the mix that adds to it, whether it's advice for people, comments on your experience, whatever you'd like to say.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Brazil, which is a very, a culture that's very male-dominated, very masculine, Latin. People look at me and they don't think that I'm Brazilian, but, Brazil is a very mixed country. And I can tell you that growing up there, I definitely faced a lot of things that I think, young girls that grow up in this kind of like macho culture face. And with that said, I was raised by my dad, who's kind of like a dad and a mom. Like, he was, incredible, absolutely amazing. And open-minded, and he was actually the one who was the biggest supporter of me becoming a musician and a singer, and being an artist from the very beginning, since I was a child. So I was lucky in that sense. But outside of my house, out in the world, I definitely experienced a lot of things that are pretty cliche and common out there, in terms of being a woman in this industry. Very complicated. But I think that to have, this is one of the powerful things about social media and the internet and being able to spread information quickly, is that a lot of places that don't really celebrate women or have a whole month or a day that's dedicated to women and, female-oriented goals or ways of life. I think it's a beautiful thing that we can get this out there to places that don't necessarily see that. And it doesn't even it can be a country, or it could be a household, or just another human being, just to have this sort of awareness that we do matter, and we should have we should have the focal point for getting our work and our ideas and our inspiration out there.
It really is a great time of opportunity to present to people different sides of any story, or different parts and pieces of history. I want to point out that the song that we heard from Yazz was Ruby Bridges, and I had the great good fortune of seeing her on the news, because there was a great mural that was done with Kamala Harris walking across. I don't know how they did that, but then the shadow of Ruby Bridges was on the wall. And as an American, I know the name Ruby Bridges, and I know the story, at least what my elementary school teacher told me, and then what I've dug into later. But to see her in person talking on the news and talking about that was really, really inspiring. I have lots of other difficult questions, but maybe I'll hold off for a second. I want to mention a couple of things. Someone recommended to me to dig into Clora Bryant, and I'm wondering if anyone is familiar with Clora Bryant as a trumpet player. So I'll pass that along. A pioneer woman in jazz. Even some of the songs that she wrote are titled specifically like, this is as good as a man can do, kind of a vibe from a bygone era, right? But that'll lead me to another challenging question. Do you think that when you approach your instrument, that there's a difference in the way, the tone, the style, the aesthetics of a performance by a woman on a given instrument? I mean, we talked earlier about, Lisa brought up sort of, you know, you have to, you know, women are challenged to act like men if they're going to be at the table, kind of a vibe, which is, you know, incorrect in its modeling. Is that pressure there, and is there a difference in tone? I wonder if anybody would like to comment on that.
I was just going to say, I don't think there's, if you close your eyes, there isn't a difference in tone. And I think maybe what's a good example of this is, I don't know about in America, but in Europe, they have blind auditions for orchestras. And since blind auditions started, there's been more women coming into orchestras and bands. And so I think that's good proof that, you know, you can't tell and we are as good, you know. I think that's a good example, but I think it's a really interesting question. I think attitudes are probably maybe a bit different. Noel and I were talking about this. I think at a certain age, so maybe, I don't know, like early teens or, well, younger than that, when boys and girls are learning, well, everything, you know, musical instruments, you know, for example, I think there's this kind of learnt way of behaving, whereas, you know, women have to be, or girls have to be quiet, good little girls, and boys, you know, they can, sorry, this is still very generalized, but boys are allowed to be naughty, you know, boys will be boys.
Expected to be sometimes just expected to be naughty. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that kind of attitude gives boys confidence, whereas for girls, we're I don't know, this is from my point of view, but I've grown up, you know, feeling fearful of making mistakes, of being ridiculed. So I think, yeah, for some young girls growing up and learning, I think that can be kind of, you know, quite problematic in helping, you know, women to, I don't know, improve or, you know,
because
improve their craft.
You learn by making mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose, yeah, some people are, you know, afraid of making those mistakes, and others, like the young boys, the class clowns, they don't mind, you know, just go for it and they learn, you know.
It's interesting. I started this morning off with a YouTube video from a Buddhist monk, and he talks about one of the first principles, and that is faith. But he defined faith not in the way that many of us understand faith. He defined it as confidence, and it's faith in yourself, which is the first step towards growth. And I can see that if the culture is feeding back to you that you shouldn't have confidence in yourself in a particular area, then that's going to affect the way you develop and grow and how many chances you take. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the important thing. Yeah, taking chances.
Well, I'm no stranger to taking chances. You know, speaking of which, I think we are, Fabian, I just want to check on who's in the room. We're coming up on 3:30. We have a wonderful interview coming that I've broken up into two parts for a specific purpose. Early in the interview, there's some great discussion about the great Oscar Peterson, and we have the pleasure of welcoming soon to the room Oscar Peterson's daughter, Céline. So I wanted to see if they're here yet, if maybe we should start this off now.
They're not in the room right now, but I can send a message if you want to get things started.
Let's play another track, then I'll start that interview, and then we'll prepare for that. Does anyone, I don't want to cut anyone off, though. Is there anything that you would like to discuss before we go into some more music? Okay.
I have, can I just ask one question?
Please.
Because it's you guys have inspired me throughout this whole entire program. And what's coming to me is, you know, in your youth, in your childhood, some have had inspirational, influential women in their lives, and some haven't. and some didn't realize there was a void in their life until maybe a little bit later, teenager years and such. I mean, I respect all of you dearly. You're extremely powerful in how you articulate, how you carry yourself through your music. I'm literally just lucky to be in this room, and I'm curious if you, knowing what you've known now and experiencing what you've experienced up to date, what would you share with your younger version self? What would you say to yourself to maybe get over some of the things that you were stuck with? Knowing what you know now and your experiences, I would just love to hear. Obviously, I'm the woo-woo inspirational person of the program, right? But I'm feeling it. So I would just love to hear some at least one person say that. Sorry, Louis, I had to go there. I just had to.
It's a competition. Oh wait, no, it's not a competition, right? Okay.
No, not a competition at all. I'm genuinely curious because, in my reflection, just growing up, I had a lot of insecurities for a lot of different reasons. And, it took me a lot to overcome that and become the person who I am today. And I don't walk in your shoes. I don't know your experiences. You guys are literally from all over the world, right? Different countries. And I'm just curious on what that perspective is for you and what you would have shared with your younger version self.
I think that both Johanna and Yazz mentioned listening to your inner voice, listening to what is speaking to you inside. There's something about how truth resonates, like what you feel and see as being truth. It sort of echoes, within you. And I think my advice to myself would be to trust that voice, and Yazz was talking before also about role models, and I do think that role models are important. Really interesting what Yazz was saying about, or maybe it was Johanna, I can't remember who was talking about it, but about how other influence, outside influence, can also influence your art. And I think that really shows with classical musicians who are sort of more constricted in the education, whereas, and sometimes you take a classically trained musician and you bring them to jazz and they're like, there's no score, what do I do? In the same way, if you can allow yourself to see somebody doing something that's outside of the box, which is why I think that it's important to have more female role models, especially as band leaders, just to let kids know that it's okay to think outside of the box and to go outside of the box. But yeah, I guess what I'm saying is listen to your inner voice would be my advice.
If I could jump in. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. All I was going to say is I would tell myself to be fearless and to just, play without fear. Just don't think about anything else. Just, go for it. That's all I want to say.
I love it.
What I was going to say is actually it's kind of like that too. I would say stop worrying so much and just enjoy the ride, enjoy the process of doing what you do every day. Stop just looking at, and I would say that to my the little girl, but I also say this to myself every day. Like, I think this is still, this is an ongoing process here, but enjoy what you do, enjoy the ride.
Oh my gosh, yes.
All right, we're going to jump into some music from Cat Vokes.
This is Gillian Margot. I'm interviewing Ingrid Jensen today for Ropeadope Records. Ingrid played on my most recent album titled Power Flower, and she is somebody that I admire very much personally and professionally, and I'm thrilled that she joined me today. Hi, Ingrid.
Hi, Gillian.
So, how have things been going for you during this during the pandemic? How have things changed, as they have for many musicians? How have you been bearing up?
Well, I got a job right at the beginning of it, so I'm just still adjusting to the life of people who work 9 to 5. As
That
you were,
is a
as we
pretty
were
big
saying
difference.
before we hit record, it's busier than ever.
Yeah,
It's crazy how busy it is.
yeah,
But I feel like I'm in a position right now that is, it's a moment that I'm grasping in time that I will probably never have again, with this much being grounded in the same state
right.
for so long, to actually feel like I might follow through and get some important things done as far as being in a system that is influencing
Well,
others that are paying into it,
yeah,
such as
yeah,
running a music department.
yeah, and in one place,
And
as
in
you
one
said.
place, yeah.
Yeah,
To
in
be in
one
one place is
physical
huge.
place for so long.
But I feel like I'm getting less done than when I was on the road and running around. That's what's the annoying thing right now. I'm looking around, I'm like, why do I have so many lists?
I think sometimes there's a bit of an impression that we have more time because we're not running around as much. We're in one place or only one or two places, and yet there's not any more time.
Well, at
So
the
maybe our
beginning of
list
it,
is
it
just
did
bigger.
feel that way, though. Like at the very
Yeah,
beginning, it felt like, oh, look at all this time we have.
of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Speaking of influence, I mean, I think that you're incredibly influential. As I mentioned, I've been a fan of yours for a very long time. We're both Canadian, so I was very much aware of you as I was coming up in Canada. And I wanted to ask you on the subject of influences, who were your biggest influences when you were coming up?
Oscar Peterson
Mm-hmm.
was probably one of the biggest ones because he swung really hard in our living room, not personally, but on the record player
Yeah,
and the radio. You know, when
yeah.
you have Canadian radio, CBC, it's such good content. At least it was when we were growing up. I
Oh,
don't know what
yeah.
it's like now, but it's always, they always take care of their artists, possibly because of the system of giving them grants, and the money
Mm-hmm.
that goes into supporting the arts in Canada is similar to a very respectful society in Europe. Let's just leave it
Mm-hmm.
at that.
Yes.
Like overseas, I saw a similar thing where you hear the news and then you hear someone you know playing some music,
Right.
and knowing that they'll get paid for it.
Yeah.
Um, so that I think that influence of support trickled down through the radio into our home, and my mom's record collection. She had a great record collection.
Oh,
But it
fantastic.
wasn't all Canadians; it was
Mm-hmm.
everybody. But Oscar was quite prominent in that, as I don't know, yeah, as I was
Amazing.
growing up.
And your parents were, did you know from a young age that you wanted to be a musician? And did your parents encourage that or?
No, they didn't encourage it. It was just something you do for family gatherings.
Right.
Break out the trumpet, come on, play for us. And I think after a while, when I was in high school, my later years in high school, it looked like I had something going there because of whatever, having been brought up listening to Louis Armstrong and
Right.
a lot of singers,
Mm-hmm.
kind of understanding the language
Mm-hmm.
of the vocabulary, the
Mm-hmm.
songbook, the canon. It was
Right.
all around me. I didn't really realize that was not normal.
Right.
So hearing Canadian musicians, there were a lot of great Canadian musicians as I was coming up, and
Mm-hmm.
they also were coming out of these influences from the South, as we say.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. So Oscar Peterson for Swing Feel, and of course you mentioned Louis Armstrong, and his phrasing is of course incredible as a vocalist and a trumpet player. Anyone who actually directly influenced you, any teachers or people that you worked with and studied with coming up?
Yeah, we had good teachers in we had a very strange and wonderfully strange band program where all of our teachers played. Everyone in that shouldn't be a weird thing, really. It should be normal. But not every district has that, where the band teacher actually is a really good drummer and swinging drummer, and actually
Right.
plays some trumpet too.
They're in the boat with you.
Yeah, so they had a big band, and the teachers, they had this big band they put together, community big band, and it was very strong. Diana Krall played in it at one point. Phil Dwyer, great saxophone player,
Yeah,
played it.
fantastic.
My sister played Barry in it for years, and so it was all the older folks in town, and then the middle-aged younger teachers, and then the little punks like me. And they would, bring, when they saw that someone was kind of on track and could play, they'd start to bring us into the band.
That's awesome.
And that was really, if anything, that playing swing music for people dancing was probably the biggest influence on me when I was young.
Yeah. When you're able to actually see people's physical reaction to what you're playing, that's quite a lesson, right? In internalizing rhythm. Yeah.
The NMA, I think I was in the NMA for 4 years. I think I joined in 9th or 10th grade. And we played probably 50, 60 dances.
Awesome.
Those years, plus concerts. And we would use the money we made from our dances to buy like all the cool charts, like the Rob McConnell charts. And then we would rehearse on the Wednesday, rehearse that music. We probably should have rehearsed the big band swing, the dance music a few times. It was pretty loose. But for the most part, it was like, wow, look at these. This is hard. I gotta go home and practice this.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, we are back at the Ropeadope Music and Arts Festival, and just heard the first part of a wonderful interview with Gillian Margot and Ingrid Jensen, and I'd like to welcome our panel back to the room. I want to remind everybody why we're here. There are two reasons. Primary reason is International Women's Day and Women's History Month, bringing awareness of the wonderful women who have contributed or have allowed us to be part of their world in bringing their music out to people. And also, it is Bandcamp Friday, yet again. And we're encouraging everyone to go and support the arts, support the music, support the women who are bringing beauty to the world while we're all busy quarantining. So thanks to them, and go to Bandcamp. Downloads.ropeadope.com is a central spot that you can go, and you can also check the feed here. We will have links posted on a regular basis, so you can go and listen to the music, purchase, support high-quality downloads, vinyl, CDs, and all great things. And I want to remind you to follow these artists, because they will post on their Bandcamp app, and you can reply in real time and ask them questions, a virtual green room, if you will. So that's a wonderful thing that we've seen happening. I'd like to welcome Gillian Margot and say, Gillian, I don't know if I can interview anyone from now on. You've got some skills.
Oh, well, we've known each other for a little while. So she, before the interview, before we hit record, she said something like, "Oh, this will be easy, because I haven't interviewed anybody ever before." She said, I don't know how to paraphrase this. It's not very friendly for mass consumption, but she basically said, "You've lived in my house." Let's just say that. Because I did. I actually, when I first came to New York, I stayed with her for a while. Yeah. So it helps when you have a personal connection, right? It was an obvious choice to interview Ingrid. She's wonderful as a person and as a musician, as we all know.
I've done a lot of interviews, and the trick is really knowing when to interrupt, which I still have not mastered, and you seem to be just a natural at it.
That's hard. That's very hard, and especially over Zoom, because sometimes you're both speaking and it just cuts out one person, so you can't even tell what the other person's saying, that you might be interrupting, and
right.
Anyway, but I was actually thinking when I was interviewing, I don't know how Lewis does this so well.
Well, it doesn't feel like it.
I'm glad
It doesn't feel
yeah,
like
yeah.
it. It never feels like it. So this is a wonderful occasion. So I watched this last night, and got through and noticed that you both talk about Oscar Peterson right away, and immediately realized that I have the great pleasure of knowing Céline Peterson.
Yep.
So I messaged her and asked her to come and visit with us, and I see her name in the room, but I don't see her. And I'm wondering if she can, there we are.
Hi,
Hello.
Céline.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I have to tell you that I did meet you when you were about 13.
Oh my God.
I want to say that because I'm sorry, Lewis, if I can just
That's
quickly,
what this is for.
Bogart
Yep.
for like a half second.
Take it.
I actually went through the York University Jazz program under John Gittens at the very end of his career there, and so I got to study with your dad.
Oh my God.
Extremely lucky to have studied with him. I really think that I went through that program at the right time because that was the end of that program as we used to know it.
Right.
And your dad was probably the single most encouraging force, as far as, just really, really making sure that I stuck with what I wanted to do and didn't get discouraged by the, let's just say, lack of representation that I was looking at very starkly back then. So it's really a pleasure to meet you, and I'm really thrilled that you're here today.
Thank you, and thanks for letting me know that. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Oh man, and John was so wonderful as well. Such
Yeah.
a special man.
Yeah, super amazing, incredible guy. Yeah.
Céline, was your father originally from Canada, or can you describe that? He was, okay.
He was born in Montreal in an area called Little Burgundy, which is also where Oliver Jones grew up. They were childhood friends, and Joe Seeley, another fantastic Canadian pianist. And so he spent his childhood in Montreal and then eventually came over and lived in Toronto for the rest of his life.
Wow. And I get the sense, we work together, fortunately, with the Robbie Botos record, which is, for folks who don't know it, Robbie Botos has an incredible story, which is, matched by his incredible music, and that record is available on Bandcamp. But I get the sense that in the process of that, Canada's right there. It's right next to us. But when I ship a package, it costs the same as Europe. It feels like this giant, like there could as well be a big ocean between the two countries, from the way that they support jazz or don't, and the way that people gain popularity in New York or in Toronto. Can you speak to that a little bit? Can you, what was it like for the great Oscar Peterson in that process?
Well, I mean, he had a very unique story in that he made the decision when he was 16 to drop out of high school. And when he did so, he carried with him a very intimidating warning from his father, who said, you're not dropping out of school. Education was the utmost of the utmost importance to him. So you're not dropping out of school just to be some other jazz piano player. If you're going to drop out of school, you're going to be the best. And so he hit the ground running and did a lot of work and was doing some work with CBC and doing some specials. And then the great Norman Granz was in town and in 1949 and was in a cab, and there was a live broadcast from the Alberta Lounge in Montreal that Dad was playing at. And Norman said, "Oh, what recording is this?" And the cab driver said, "Oh, it's actually live. It's from the Alberta Lounge." And he said, "Take me there." And he went and introduced himself. And not long after that, he brought Dad to New York as a special guest to a Jazz at the Philharmonic show at Carnegie Hall. Wow. So from the Alberta Lounge to Carnegie Hall. And then, of course, Norman and Dad had a friendship and working relationship for the rest of Norman's life. And so that was, he kind of jumped, and he didn't really you know, but past that, he no longer kind of played the Canadian dues, and he was assumed to be American. And so he dealt with a lot of things that you're going to find in countries all over the world then and now, in terms of, you know, racism and hardships with that, unimaginable pain with that. But he really, he didn't spend as much time, as much as he did live here, he did not spend as much time working in the Canadian scene after that. So, and there's definitely a world of difference between Canada and the US and how they're viewed. There was some article years and years ago that called Oliver Jones Canada's Oscar Peterson, and that kind of shows you how little people really know and how much people will assume. So it's interesting, and a lot of that hasn't changed, right? There's no difference in all the difference between the two places and how artists are treated. It's very hard for Canadian artists to come to the US, though. It's very expensive and unfun.
It's fascinating to me because there's such a support network there in Canada for musicians. You know, I mean, I wish we had that, and yet that still exists. What is it like, and can you share anything about what's happening for women in Canada at this point in the music scene?
There are some forces on our Canadian music scene. One of the things that I've been enjoying that's come out of COVID is Jody Prosnick and Amanda Tossoff have formed the Music Arts Collective, and they've been doing some wonderful work through that organization and initiative. And they're doing a lot of great live streams and conversations with other women, which has been very inspiring and uplifting when I think we all need it. The Coalition for Music Education in Canada also works very hard. They are the organization that run Music Monday, and they also are very female forward in what they want to present. So that's always a nice event to see happen. And you'll see there are women all over the place at the forefront of things. I work closely with Molly Johnson, who is as much a philanthropist as she is a singer-songwriter, and she's just someone who she wants something done, she's going to get it done. And people know that about her. So she's definitely the person you want on your team, whether you're thinking musically or with some kind of other arts initiative, both behind the scenes and on the stage. She's remarkable.
One last question for you, and then I'll open it up for everyone else to talk about it. I just wanted to ask if there are many popular Canadian musicians that have made it big in the United States. I'm not naming any one-name artists in particular, but are they giving back to the community in Canada? I'm curious to see if that happens. Do you know?
There are a bunch of names that I won't, I will, like you, I will not mention them. I think people would be surprised at how some of the bigger names in particular, how much they do make an effort to be involved in Canadian music. I think there are some people who are at a more of a mid-level who make less of an effort, right? So that it's interesting. It's definitely interesting, but I appreciate the way that a lot of artists do try to give back. I can find a lot to complain about, but I won't. I will be more positive about it. But yeah, you can tell that there are people who are very proud of being Canadian and wear that with them and wear it on their heart, so to speak.
That's great. You know, we've got quite a few here at Ropeadope, but I would certainly love to hear from women in Canada. We talked earlier about, you know, what my responsibility and role is in supporting, and I think, you know, I can't go by the percentage rule anymore about what comes through my inbox. I'm encouraging more women to send me more music. So if anything comes up, please let me know.
Sure.
I want to go back to our interview in a minute, but I want to allow you all time to chat with Céline if you have questions or conversation. Sorry to use.
How's Robbie doing, Céline?
He's doing well.
Say hi.
I will. He's doing well. He's actually moved out of Toronto. He's living in Niagara now, making the move. But there's
a mass exodus happening. It's
yeah.
I noticed that. Yeah, I was laughing at you and Lewis because you guys not wanting to mention names of of the women, you know, and I just felt saying, you know, one of the things that I started doing when I moved to the U.S. and meeting all these and working with so many American musicians was, you know, they were just like, yeah, like Canadian, you know, jazz music or Canadian musicians, period. Like, I guess you guys have a lot of, you know, famous people, but I can't think of anybody. And I was like, Diana Krall.
Yeah.
Céline Dion.
Yeah.
Alanis Morissette. Like, just go through every genre. Shania Twain. Like,
That's
who
right.
else is sort of at the top of their genre? It's a Canadian woman. Chances are. There's
I
a lot of
know.
them. And I mean, this is true when you go across, you know, a lot of different countries. People don't realize when artists come from different countries. You know,
I
the
was
US likes to
specifically,
claim them, but
sorry to
yeah.
interrupt, but I was specifically referring to some very famous male pop stars.
I know who you were referring to.
Or
We
hip,
knew.
or hip hop, if you
Leonard
will,
Cohen.
who you know, I mean, as a record label, independent, you know, the difference in salaries is something that I always pay attention to, whether it's Ed Sheeran or whomever. So Ed Sheeran gets the bad end of that. But, you know, I mean, that's the problem. That is basically the problem. So anyway, that's why I asked the question. Sorry.
No,
Well, I think there's, you know, there's someone in here in Canadian jazz and especially in Toronto who I think many artists within the scene definitely know, and that's Sybil Walker, who has been, you know, booking music and supporting artists for over 50 years. And she's the woman to know. And I think internationally, she has so much respect from artists, and she's someone I greatly admire. And she's been booking here, you know, she's still doing it. Up until recently, she was at Jazz Bistro here. So she's just spectacular. And she watched people like Diana come up, right? From little itty bitty babies to what she is now. So she's quite a force.
Nice.
Yeah. She helped me out when I first, I mean, she's always booked my acts there and whenever I've returned to Toronto, but she helped me out when I did my whole visa application, you know, to come to the U.S. And, you know, she wrote letters for me and really helped. She did the same, I think, for Melissa Stiliano. She's a force.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, amazing person.
I've realized that we have some wonderful content to get to, and I know it's getting late in on the other side of the Atlantic, so shall we jump in and play these? There's one. Is Lisa still with us? Yes. Can you tell me how this collaboration came together, Johanna, Yazz, and Lisa, and how you
is
how you
it
pulled
our
this off?
video next? Yes, I think I just did a shout out in our brilliant group, and it's part of being locked down, I guess. I learned a lot of editing things, and yeah, you have to be able to do everything yourself at the moment, but it's also made me be a bit more versatile. So I thought it would be really nice actually to take this as a chance to collaborate with others from the label. I have had some really nice connections already, but this one, because there is a deadline and you have to get it for a specific day, it just came together really quickly. And it also gave me a chance to transcribe a brilliant song that I've heard live. It's Unconditional Love by Jerry Allen, and I saw her play it with Esperanza Spalding and Terry Lynn Carrington live at the Barbican a few years ago. And it's a brilliant song, and it's I kind of looked at loads of different versions when I wrote it down, and it was really interesting to me to see. Firstly, it's her tune. I looked through her discography, and it was a lot of. Sometimes it was hard to find out what tunes she'd actually written. This is also something that I've struggled to find out what has actually been written by female composers. I don't know why, but it's hard to track down sometimes. And this one somehow it was very clear. She wrote this, and there are different versions of it. And it's interesting to me to see how she kind of changed certain harmonies. She changed the rhythms here and there from in between 10 years where the videos that I saw. And it's inspiring to me to kind of, and reminds me to, I can go back into tunes that I wrote 10 years ago maybe look over them and bring them into a new band or whatever it is. And obviously this, I hope she would like what I did. Obviously I had to kind of take what I can do. Being a violinist, I can do the bass line and the chords in a limited way. That changes harmonies, that makes them simpler in a sense. But yeah, it was really great to kind of put down the bones and then have the other ladies join and add the magic. And I'm really happy with this tune. I hope everyone likes it. And it was really great collaborating remotely.
So
I have
go
to
ahead,
say,
Lisa. Yeah.
I jumped on board immediately because I had met you, Johanna, in a previous Ropeadope festival, and I fell in love with you. You're so smart and such a talent, and I went and listened to your music. And when you did send that shout out, I was like, I am on board. What can I do? And it was a great experience, absolutely, to do this remotely. There's so much talent involved in this album, and I love what you said about exploring like new frontiers, doing the video and doing that work that we have to do because we're in lockdown and we have to, but that's part of being an independent musician today, and that's also part of why I love Ropeadope is that they help those who help themselves. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just want to say here, thank you for having this idea, this fantastic inspiration, and thank you for letting me be a part of it.
No, thank you, Lisa. It's very sweet. I'm so glad for everyone who jumped in. So that's great.
Yeah, I think you did such an awesome job with it. I love the visuals, and I personally thought. I mean, I'm always game to collaborate, and I'm just thrilled to meet you all, and the uniqueness I think of instrumentation. Having poetry and having voice and having violin and having trumpet is super cool. I thought, yeah, this sounds like it'll be fun and unlike anything else. So why not? And thanks so much for putting the shout out there. Yeah, everybody was awesome.
The video is super creative as well. Yazz, any comments before we play it?
Yeah, it was a pleasure to play with all of you virtually. Yeah, it's a shame that we couldn't be in the room together, but yeah, it was really lovely. And yeah, well done, Johanna. It's a lovely arrangement, really well done, and a beautiful video. So
thanks, yeah.
All right, let's take a look.
Grandmothers and aunties, sisters, lovers, mothers, cousins. Heard in the whisper of the words you spoke, reverberating in the sound of the steps you took inside the past, presented now. I stand upon your shoulders. There, in a hard caress, a weary brow, love and instruction gifted, red river stream from you to me. I stand upon your shoulders. Everything I am is because you were. All that I achieve you built inside the past, presented here. I stand upon your shoulders. Infinite and eternal wisdom past. From womb to cry, to struggle, to grave, open-hearted, washed in gratitude, I stand upon your shoulders. Sister, place your foot there in my linked hands, inside the future, presented soon. You stand upon mine.
my tune "One Girl Among Many" from Polymnia, by this amazing. I think she's from LA, actually. I'm not sure, but this amazing electronic artist called Asmara. She's also a composer. Goes under another name, I think, Asma Maroof. Yeah, and she remixed that track, and I just played on top of it. Yeah.
All right. All I can say.
Truly beautiful. Truly beautiful.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And we are back. We are live. That's Yazz Ahmed commenting on her wonderful piece and truly creative video. And before that, we heard and saw very unique video, I have to say, but also wonderful collaboration between Gillian Margot, Yazz Ahmed, Johanna Burnheart, and Lisa Marie Simmons. We are blessed. We are blessed. I want to just thank you all so much for that. I think I count myself lucky to be able to see these things and to bring them out to the world. I greatly appreciate all of you.
Well, thank you for the platform, obviously, in turn.
We're trying. All the television production details that you can only learn through trial and error, who are our producers. But I know it's getting late there. I just want to thank each of you, and thank you, Noel, for being here as well. Didn't acknowledge you on the way in, but we definitely want to mention you now. Thank you for being there and so supportive, and your contributions as well. We are going to move on in a few moments to the rest of Gillian's interview with Ingrid Jensen, and just want to give you an opportunity to, if there's anything you'd like to say to the audience at this point.
I would say stay tuned for when we can all, ladies, get into the same room or get onto the same stage physically together. That's what I look forward to having happen.
Yes, I am so there. Yes, absolutely. I'm waiting for that day.
Yeah.
Please get packed.
Let's make some plans. As I mentioned earlier,
yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, my vaccine appointment and my passport both came today.
Oh, there you go.
So it's a cosmic sign. And just yesterday, I was warned by someone I know who's in financial markets, saying, book your airline tickets now, because when everything opens up, the prices are going to be sky high. So I'm thinking October in the UK or somewhere in Europe.
To Europe.
I'm going to visit I'm going to visit all of you on that side of the pond. Maybe Gillian can come along.
Guess I better book a ticket. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get it. Let's plan something in October.
Good reason to do it.
And do that. Let's jump back into the interview, and I'm gonna make the switch here.
Yeah, that's cool. Did you feel at any point, because I know that, when you're coming up and in Canada, like people talk about how even though we do have so much support for the arts in Canada through grants and so on, a lot of people still feel that, it is a smaller jazz community in Canada. It's just a smaller community, period. Yeah. And coming from, where you did as well, you grew up in Nanaimo, BC? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so coming up from in a small community like that too, I know that you come from a family where you have two sisters and they're both also really great horn players, and so that's kind of an amazing thing in itself, especially if your parents weren't actively encouraging you to be musicians. I think that's wonderful. But did you feel ever that you really met with resistance because you were a young woman coming into this business as opposed to a young man?
Sure, I did. Not so much from our band teachers, because they were all just like, for some reason, they just said whoever was keen was in the band. And it seemed like most of the keen folks were girls.
Right.
So we had these really great bands that were quite mixed as far as the gender goes.
Mhm.
And at the same time, when I graduated high school, it was more like, the band teacher going, "Are you sure you want to go to music school? A girl can't really play the jazz trumpet. There's nobody that's done
Gotcha.
it. So why
Right.
should you?" Sort of like that. Of course, he was a reformed. He was a needing to be reformed alcoholic,
Mm.
and he eventually got it together. And I think he realized he was incorrect.
Right. Well, and if
Especially since
anything,
it just inspired me to keep going.
I was going to say that would be adding fuel to the fire, I would
Yeah.
think.
Maybe part of him was saying that to me because he knew it would push me to
Who
maybe
knows?
work a little harder, because it
Yeah.
all came very easy to me.
Right.
Music came very easy, and I didn't feel like I had to practice because I got it, but I actually was kind of sucking while I was doing okay.
Right.
If that's humanly possible.
And so then you went to Berkeley, in Boston. And was that your first foray after Nanaimo? Is that where you moved
Yeah.
to?
Well, I mean, Diana had actually gone to Berkeley, and she had been one person who always was very encouraging to me when I was young. She never really said anything like, "Oh, that's whatever, you're not very good." It was the opposite. It was like, "Hey, that solo was great. Keep going."
That's awesome.
Really encouraging, and really, because she was studying with Jimmy Rolls, whose
Okay.
daughter was Stacey Rolls, the late great Stacey Rolls. So she was the one person in my life who had actually seen a woman jazz trumpet player have a career.
I
She was in
see.
LA, and she was doing great. So, following in her footsteps was something I did. If there was, my daughter is idolizing JoJo Siwa and Ariana Grande. I think I probably idolized Diana Krall because it was like, I want to be like her.
That's awesome. And then you moved to Austria.
No, not right
No,
away.
not directly.
I moved to Denmark
You're in-
after I finished.
Oh, wow,
Berkeley,
okay.
Where I
Oh,
was with
okay.
many fine musicians at Berkeley who I still play with some of them. Some you may know.
Yes. One or two.
But Berkeley was all about connections. And so what happened? Why did I go to Denmark? I went to Denmark because I had a free place to live. So I left.
Oh, there you
When I
go.
graduated from college, I had a choice of going back to Canada, where there wasn't the most thriving scene in Nanaimo.
Mm-hmm.
And it would have really been a traumatic re-entry after
Yeah.
being in Boston with all of these incredible players.
Yeah.
So I just went to Europe or Scandinavia, and I just hung out there for a couple of months. And then I moved to New York for a year to meet up with an ex-boyfriend from Berkeley. He was my ex-boyfriend when I landed on the plane, but not when he wrote me the love letter that said, "Please come to New York."
I see.
School of Hard Knocks.
Yep.
So I spent about a year in New York and had a day job at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel and taking trumpet lessons and playing on the street and playing in the subway.
That's
Busking.
fantastic.
Then I moved to Europe. Then I
Okay.
got a job in Austria. So I kind of
Right.
moved to New York twice. I
Yeah.
did a little jump here and then jump back across the pond.
And when after Austria, and then coming back to New York the second time, did you sort of feel at that point that it was like, okay, this is my decision now, I feel like I'm ready to do this?
I didn't have much of a choice. Somehow
Okay.
I had landed a record deal.
Ah.
People had back in those days. So
Right.
I was just like, gonna quit my job, gonna move to New York and get my butt kicked and play with really great musicians and record because I have a record deal. I don't know what that means, and I don't think I'm ready, but I'm gonna do it. So that was the method to that madness.
That's always a good reason. I meant to ask you about some of your teachers, people who you studied with, like Art Farmer. And I wanted to ask you about Clark Terry and their influences on you, what it was like working and studying with them.
Here, hold on 1 second. Let me just get this picture. It's one of my favorites. There you go.
Look at that. That's fantastic.
Young Ingrid Jensen with her first suit. First suit that I ever bought. Yeah, I mean, what can you say? It's like working with your idol.
Yeah.
Hanging out with a pop star, rock star, jazz star, whatever, beyond.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clark was great. Art was great. They just kicked my butt.
That's fantastic. And to have that kind of encouragement and love and support, as a young musician, without the gender thing being an issue,
you know
right?
what, actually, though, Julian, I think those guys, they're from that older generation, not older, but they're from a time, where a time in civilization in America where I don't know. I mean, they were black men who went through so much crap in their lives and retained a state of classiness, and at the same time they'd be like, "What do you mean you didn't bring your horn to the gig?"
Right.
Like a grumpy old uncle, just like, "What do you mean you didn't bring your horn?"
Right.
Play mine. Get up and play.
That's right. Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, all right.
But that's great though, right? Because then it's like there's no special sort of treatment once they realize that you're not looking for it. not in the way that they expect anyway, right? Like, treat me special, let me play, put me in, coach, like be hard on me, but not like in the way that, so many people would stereotype and think that we look for,
There's so much
delicate
abuse
treatment.
of banter in our world here, and especially within jazz. There's been a lot of abuse of education that makes people feel bad about themselves, and so there's no love in it. And those guys just loved me. They met me and they just heard me play and were like, "We love you." Like Mr. Rogers in my life, where it wasn't always, it wasn't about them so much. It was about them making me realize that I was qualified.
Right. It's that passing on of the tradition, which is such a beautiful thing about this music. As far as, albums and record deals and looking at, how prolific your career has been thus far, there are a couple for me of your albums that really stand out. And I wanted to ask you, for me, it's the At Sea, which is maybe the one I'm most familiar with, and Higher Grounds. Which I really love. And I thought, I should ask you, because I know sometimes it's different when you ask the artist, are there a couple of albums that for you were really sort of like your biggest, most memorable, or just sort of like these were, I don't want to say favorites because it's like, which is your favorite child kind of a question, but are there two that sort of stand out for you? Couple.
As well as I do, when people are like, "Oh, I just made a record. It's like having a baby," but they don't have a baby.
That's right.
Like, yeah, you don't know what it's like to have a baby. Sorry. I had a baby. I also made a bunch of records, completely different. Story.
Yeah.
But that said, they're all my little CD children recordings are kind of special to me because they reflect a time in my life where I was growing and connecting with those people on those records. That record company I was with, I was very fortunate. I didn't let them know. The guy that sent my cassette around he's like, "I want to get you a record deal. You're great." And I was like, "No, I suck, but here's a cassette, a live gig, whatever. Shoot it around, but you aren't allowed to tell them I'm a girl." And he was like, "No, I really want to tell them you're a girl. It'll be easier."
Right.
I said, "No." Then don't do it. Please don't send my music.
Right.
And so I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And there was one record label that wrote him back and said, "This guy sounds good. A little bit of Woody Shaw. Who is that?" And that was the one I ended up going with. And it was a 3-record deal. And he never really forced me to play with, superstars, but he encouraged me. The guy who produced this stuff, he encouraged me to play with people who were, had a bit of a jazz name, but not like uber famous, going to come in the studio for 2 tunes for $20,000 and not take part.
Right.
So each band I hired, I felt like had the potential to be a band.
Awesome.
Whether or not we toured that much, but the At Sea band is actually friends and family, which is, I think, possibly why I sound more like myself, I think, on that one than the previous stepping stone.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's as we say about musicians often, or our colleagues, whenever asked, what's it like to play with such and such, I find that, the general answer is, well, this is what this person's like as a person. Yeah. And so that's kind of what it's like to play music with them. Yeah. There isn't really much of a separation when it comes to talking about musicians. So with regard to collaborations with other women, you've had quite a few, and that shouldn't seem like an odd thing, because, you know, we are out there in this music. We are out there quite, I think, a lot more than people realize. But, you know, I know that, you know, for me, when I look at your career and I see all of the people that you've collaborated with, which is always a stunning list, you know, the sort of most prominent ones that come to mind for me would be being a part of the Maria Schneider Orchestra. You were a part of that since the beginning of its, pretty much?
Close to the beginning. I think I
Close
came
to
in
the
on the second record or the
Okay.
Yeah, second or third. It was
Okay.
about good 10, 15 years. I don't
Wow.
know.
Yeah. And to me, that sound, I mean, I feel like, you know, your sound is a big part of the fabric of what made that orchestra, you know, like made it what it is. So for a long time, I think that was almost synonymous. And you know, that's such a big impression, I think, that of you being in that orchestra. Obviously now, you know, we fast forward, you're in this wonderful new creation of Artemis, which is, you know, so these to me are sort of the two most, you know, famous kind of collaborations in my mind anyway that I think of.
Well, Terry Lynn Carrington's record is another one that is people should check out. The Mosaic
Yeah.
Project. That was the very first record ever a woman ever winning in the instrumental jazz category of the Grammys.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing album, and kudos to her. I mean, I think she's another person who's opened so many doors for young women musicians as well. How did this new project of Artemis that you're a part of, which is amazing, you know, all women band, how did you come to be a part of that?
That was another one of those sort of flukes where a promoter put together a group in France. And actually, Terry Lynn was playing drums on the first one, and Linda O was playing bass.
Mhm.
He's just like, we'll get all the all-stars, the stars. We'll make an all-star band. It just happens to be women. Well, I mean, it was women for a reason. And yeah, we played, and then we were like, well, that was kind of fun. And so the promoter thought it was quite successful and put together a tour for us. And since Terry was very busy doing her thing and Linda was out with some guy named Pat Metheny.
Right. He's not bad, I've heard.
Not bad. We were like, okay, we need somebody else. So we got Allison and Noriko, who actually, in my opinion, gelled in a way that, you know, you just can't expect everyone to we got along. The first band got along great, but to me, there was something about the connection between when Noriko and Rini were playing, maybe because Noriko studied with Ron Carter and Rini plays with Ron Carter. We haven't really discussed that in the band, but I was like, man, there's some really like interesting
special connection
landing in the middle now, even though the other band was killing. But this actually feels like a rock band, you know, like you put the right people in the right place, and this band could just play together forever.
Yeah.
And the music everyone was contributing was very, very, for the most part, really, you know, played to the story.
Cool. Yeah. Who in your mind, I mean, you mentioned Terry Lynn. I know you've worked with Diane Reeves on her Beautiful Life album. I know that you worked with Jerry Allen, I think, as well, right?
Yeah, such a great musician.
People are still sort of discovering all of, you know, her gifts and treasures and things that she had on offer. Very much underappreciated when she was, you know, around and available to us. Who are some of the artists, male or female, who you feel like you haven't collaborated with, who you would like to collaborate with?
Oh, wow. Beyonce? No, I'm kidding. Joni Mitchell? Not going to happen. Katie Lang? Not going to happen. No, they're so... I don't know if I think of it that way. I just think about musicians that I want to collaborate with. I don't always think of gender so much.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be.
I mean, it's like when I play with my sister, I forget that she's a person sometimes. I'm like, you're just my sister.
She's just this awesome sound.
You're just this ball of amazing sound and playing.
And cool compositions and arrangements and yeah.
Musical and just, yeah. So, yeah, I don't know how to answer that. I have to think about it. Can I get back to you on it?
Of course you can. What would be your, looking at younger musicians generally, but of course, I believe very much in representation, and that's a big part of what this is about being, to me, here you are, this iconic jazz musician who happens to be a woman, and looking at, the fact that we have so much more, it feels like we have so much more women now in jazz. And they need to, this is because they see you out there performing. They see Terry Lynn Carrington, they saw Jerry Allen. What is your advice to them, if anything?
Do the work.
Yep.
Do the work that everybody else has to do.
That's
we
right.
just had Ambrose in here as a guest at MSM, and I think one of the most impactful things to our students, at least to me, hopefully to the students, was how he said when he was young and had a career going, he could have just kept playing and done what he was doing based on the laurels he had for himself at that point, what he created for himself. And he realized, I just don't know enough. I need to go to school and study classical harmony and study theory and study trumpet with Laurie Frink. So the humility and the boldness behind that decision is, I think, the reason why he will continue to evolve as one of our great voices in beyond jazz music. And I expect the same of all my students. It's like, I'm not going to teach you how to be a star. Come in here and show off your thing you've got, because you don't got your thing.
Right.
You might have a little bit of a thing, but if that's what you want to go sell, get your package and go. But if you really want to keep doing this till you're 90, like my idols did.
Yeah, you better do the work.
Think about yourself every morning when you wake up. Let's get to work.
That's right. Awesome.
Pretty. It's not going to all be pretty.
Yeah. Well, sounds like the words of an excellent teacher as well as an excellent musician who's been there and done the work.
I have my days. I got a very mediocre lesson before this because I wasn't so focused. So we'll make that one up, though.
And meanwhile, your students probably thinking, wow, that really blew my mind. So, you never know. It's all in the perspective. Anyway, thank you so much, Ingrid Jensen, for joining me today. And
all I want to do is some yoga with you right now.
That would be so nice.
One of these days, when the weather gets warmer, we can go out in the sun and do some yoga. Well, it's great to see you and hang out with you. I'm going to go do some more emails for 25 minutes. And
all right.
Hug to your beautiful family for me.
Thank you. You as well. Take good care.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Sorry, Lewis.
I was so happy that she said that because I think that's the single most important message to all young musicians, anybody really ever. And I think that, that's the hard part is people sort of think that if you really love it, and you keep doing it, then your career is just going to start to take off or take on a life of its own. But really, it's always a ton of work, as so many of us know. And you really have to love it enough to do that work. Otherwise you're going to drive yourself nuts. But yeah, and she's such a cool person. Thanks for the suggestion of artist to artist interviews. I think that was a lot of fun. Yeah. Wow. Hmm. I'm so happy it's making a comeback. Hmm. Hi, Badi.
Where am I right now? Chicago. Very close. You know, I'm going back to Brazil this Tuesday now. I'm almost 2 months here. So I came to enjoy the snow. daughter, she's living in Chicago, 13 years old. She came during the pandemic to live here. She came in August. So now I came to be with her a little bit. Oh yeah, so far so good, yeah. And I'm going back to Brazil, which is very scary down there right now. So yeah. And part of me say, why am I going back? But I'm going back. There's oh yeah, it is. It is. And so one thing that happened while I'm here, I played a live concert with people in front of me just last weekend in Minneapolis at the Crooners. And that was so strange. Jesus, when I opened my eyes and people were applauding, see, gosh, I don't have one applaud for 1 year. That was freaking hell. Like, I missed it. It's Jesus, how we miss to really play for people, not just from our bedroom, right? The musicians know.
That must have been awesome.
Yes, it
That's a
was.
nice venue. I know that venue, so I'm surprised they're open like that. But wow, that must have been
Well,
cool.
they didn't stop.
Okay.
They were one of the first places in America that did drive-ins
Oh, okay.
when the lockdown finished. While daughter just came
Cool.
from school. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Well, one thing taking advantage of the the Women's Day. Um, so you may know I'm the sister of Sergio and Badi Assad, these two gigantic guitar players which made history. They play guitar for more than 50 years now professionally. So it's a great career. And because of them, I was introduced to the guitar world when I started to perform. I'm much younger than they are. So when I started to go abroad, I started to play for their public. But I cannot tell you how many times I heard the phrase, wow, she's good. She plays like a man. So very interesting how this statement, but something that actually I never took it very personal because for me to play like a man was to play like my brothers, and I love them. They were always like my main professors, mentors, and I really love them. So I never took that in a personal level. That I didn't think about it. Only later I start to think, what does that mean? So to see, talking, just do the job. Yes, I understand that part of that is also because the male energy that we can put in the song, being strong when we play, can confuse a lot of people and say that we are strong like a man. But the femininity is allows the women to be so much wilder in our interpretations, because we can embrace the sensuality in a way that men don't allow themselves to go there. So the women have so much more ways of touching people than the men are in this macho world, you know? So yes, I'm very happy to be a woman.
Very, very powerful words, and I understand completely. And you know, we talked about this a little bit earlier. You know, what are the differences, and I get that. You know, it makes sense. I'm almost, you know, I'm not trying to sort of connect in and glom onto it at all, but we did talk earlier about it's not necessarily men, but it's a culture that defines what men should be.
Oh, for sure.
That we have to adapt to, and I, you know, I grew up, you know, with a little bit of creativity, or certainly a bit of a creative mind, and was told that's, you know, that's yeah, that's not gonna work. You're gonna need to kind of fit a mold, a masculine mold. So I'm jealous, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
But anyway, thank you for sending the CD. I was so happy when I came here in Chicago and I could physically see the CD, which is right there. I sold some at this concert.
Good, good. There are many people that are collecting CDs these days. And
people, you know, a lot of people don't have where to play CDs anymore, which is a reality. But nothing replaces the fact that you can hold it, and we put so much love when we created the cover, and we know the content that is there. It's beautiful. I like to hold it and know that it's not just to the ears. It's also a piece of art. You can have these beautiful covers and enjoy that way as well. You can use to do other stuff. You can hang in your wall if you wish.
Well, my argument for CDs is that in today's world, and I fought a little bit with my computer today at kind of having ownership of my own content. When I was dealing with Google and Google Drive and Apple and iCloud, and I'm sensing this battle of who owns what's in my computer, because there's software running trying to say you have access and you don't have access. CD is a guaranteed way to own the highest quality audio file, or a high quality audio file that's separate. And the CD problem, as far as a CD player, you can buy those for a few bucks.
That's true.
You know,
but now I think it's a way also to, with all the streaming, it's very difficult for people to really focus, because the variety and the disponibility is so much that you listen to something, I don't like it, push to order. People don't focus anymore. And if you are in your home and you put a CD to play, you're going to hear from the beginning to the end. You have that effort to go and you set up your mind. And so this is like an exercise nowadays. It's kind of a meditation mode.
It is definitely a meditation.
It's so chaotic. Yeah.
It is a meditation, and I recommend that people do it and try it, you know, especially younger people who have not grown up with that as an experience. You know, as a child, I you know, that's what you did because there wasn't anything else to do, really. But it really is a meditation and a wonderful experience. So, yeah, I'm glad you got those, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's an important thing we want to communicate to people, is take the time to experience music as an experience.
So much layers, right? And with all this facility to push a button and have the whole world in your hands, it has been not easy for us to find a space out there to be heard, to be seen, It's so much competition with professionals, with people that are just starting and are putting like not so good quality products out there because it's just easy to make anywhere. But I believe that when we do such a thing with love, we are going to find the public that identifies with what we do. It's in this world that everything is about how many likes you have, how many hearts you have in your comments. That thing can drive us crazy. And it's very going back to the meditative mind, because musicians, we can be very disencouraged because the competition is so brutal. So this one by one, it's always going to be the trick.
Well, I think we're getting to an elevated state where people are understanding. I want to ask you a couple of quick questions. Can you name one author, female author, that you would recommend? So, a book or poetry or someone who has inspired you?
I have some in Brazil in Portuguese.
That's what I would like to know. That's exactly what I would like to know.
Well, there is a poet, a lady called Elisa Lucinda. She's from Espírito Santo. She's unbelievable. She's also an actress, and she puts these monologues with her poetry, which is breathtaking.
Thank you. And how about a guitar player that you idolize?
Women too, or?
Your choice.
My brothers.
Yeah? Okay. All right.
My brothers. If you don't know them, run, because they are geniuses. Yeah.
Beautiful. Did your father play guitar?
My father played mandolin. A Brazilian mandolin. And because my brothers, and I include them there, my father was our first teacher. And he was, in a real life, he was a very macho man, like very strong, and he would be mean. He would be like, we never wanted to see my father angry because he was angry. But when he picks up his mandolin, he became like this angel. Angel. He would transform it to some, and he would be music, pure music. Unbelievable. So my brothers started to play guitar with playing with him, because mandolin is a leading instrument. So I would envy my brothers, because I wanted to touch my father in that level, because he was such a wonderful man. He would never be mean in that state of mind. So that is why I started to perform too, because one day my father invited me to play guitar with him. And I said, yes, wow. I want to know it, how it is to be with you, and not being afraid of you.
Well, with that, I want to jump over and I want to play one of your songs. So bear with me a second, and we're going to play this.
Nice to meet you, Gillian, Johanna. Yes. I'll say yes. Yes. So we are sisters, Ropeadope sisters. That's right. Pretty exciting.
Farmacêutica transatlântica, transandina. Una vida se apaga porque les turba. Que se muera pronto para darle la vacuna. Ellos dicen ser buenos, reparten pastillas. Ay, qué pena que le da, se hace tirar. Ellos dicen ser buenos, reparten cocinar. Farmacéutica transatlântica, traçandina. Una vida se apaga porque les turba. Que se muera pronto para darle la vacuna. Quieren millones, 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 millones de almas en su cuenta, millones de represas en la tierra. Ah, 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 ah. Ellos gobernaron el pasado, la rutina, la energía. No gobernarán el futuro. Ellos gobernaron el pasado, la rutina, la energía. No gobernarán el futuro. No, 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 no gobernarán el presente, el futuro. Quieren millones, 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 millones de almas en su cuenta, millones de represas en la tierra. Ah, ah, ah,
Wow, you chose Millones by Camila Moreno. Camila Moreno is from Chile. And when she came out to the scene, she won all the prizes in Chile, like best new new singer, artist, best singer, best album, best song. And when she sang this song in one of the national awards on TV, national TV in Chile, her presentation right after the program was ended was taken off. Taken off or taken away? How do you say in English?
Same.
Taken off.
Same.
Because she came and she said right before she played this song, she said, I composed this song for all of those who believe that money can buy anything, including a country. And she plays the song. And she was banished from the TV show. So very powerful lady, Camila.
Wow.
So all these songs from this album, they represent something. They are about artists all over the place, all over the world, that somehow played an effect on my personal life or my career, my music, my musicianship. Doesn't matter their genre, generation. I mix it up, all kinds, from Camila Moreno to Ima Sumac to Astor Piazzolla and Bjork, Tori Amos, so many, LTJ, Hozier, and so on. All this material is in this album, Around the World.
So there was a book, correct?
Yes, Around the World in 80 artists, but musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because we've crossed this planet so many times, and I have, from the beginning, I always became very interested in how world music is, because it's the genre I fit in.
Right.
Because of the lack of other name.
Right.
But I really love the music that comes from all over the place, and I was always open for them. And somehow I incorporated many styles in my own music, which makes hard to define, because the world is so big. So, but the foundation of the music is from Brazil. Everything mixed with a little bit of Brazilian roots, because Brazilian music itself is so variety, so huge. Brazil is so rich. One of the biggest melting pot that exists in Earth is called Brazil. Unbelievable. The world only knows a little bit of what happens in Brazil musically. Just a little tiny bit. It's unbelievable.
We need to learn more. And I suggest that your album is
more Brazilian music for Ropeadope.
100%. I want to move there. World music is always a definition that seemed overtly, I don't know if I want to say racist, but I definitely want to say imperialist to me. There's like us and them. World music was them, and it was very, well, disappointing but not surprising that they addressed the issue by calling it global music. Recently. Now they call it global music. And there's just this unwillingness in the United States of America to be anything but first.
Yeah.
Anything but first. We have to be first. We don't know how to be second. We don't know how to be third. We don't know how to be 100th. Although we are in certain very important health statistics and quality of life statistics, we can't admit that. We can't say that. So, my interest for Ropeadope for the future would be to travel the world and record people in different countries and put it all on an equal playing field.
And also, why, for example, when we teach our kids about music, we don't incorporate the global music in it. Mm-hmm. So kids are not raised learning what is music outside of America, and in Brazil, a little bit of Brazil, but so much about Asian music, so rich, so beautiful, African music. Yeah. We are from Brazil. We have so much African roots in our music, but we don't teach our kids about African music. So it's has a lot that can be done still.
We'll give it some time, and I think it's all happening. And so many people that have been involved with this label have been pushing the boundaries a little bit, and just pushing against the boundaries, to bring that to people's attention. I think if you dig back in the Ropeadope catalog, and again, the pitch, go to Bandcamp, downloads.ropeadope.com. Just dig back. I have to tell you, I've been with this company for 15 years, and was involved with it 5 years before that as well. When I go back, I find fascinating things from the last 20 years that are relevant today and that were pushing the boundaries at the time. So it's quite a good thing. And for everyone who's watching, here in the room are 3 wonderful artists who all have music on Bandcamp. I'm blessed to be associated with all of you. We're gonna have to wrap it up. We're gonna have to come back. Maybe I don't want to go, but I think we've got to call it a day. Downloads.ropeadope.com, and Yazz Ahmed, please go ahead. I see you. We're wanting to speak. The mic is on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you both for putting this together, and it's been lovely to chat with people from all over the globe. Thank you for putting this together. It's been lovely.
Thank you.
I say the same.
All right, Johanna, Badi.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the room. I think in general, it's been a year now, right? We've been locked down for a year basically, and it's nuts. And I was ill for a month in the beginning, and then the realization came in of, not going to play any gigs for however long, and that would be the point where it's really easy to just write off the year, just leave it, just let it go. And you guys at Ropeadope are part of why I wasn't allowed to do that, out of a good reason, not a bad way, but you kind of it gives you incentive to, even if this is how it is for now, there is a way to try and connect and keep producing things and keep somehow getting inspired and imagine what we can do with this situation. And it keeps you on your toes, and that's really lucky. I know I've been more lucky than others to have this community to tap into, so I thank you very much as well.
Beautiful thing. Badi Assad, safe travels back to Brazil. You've sparked my curiosity. I was just saying I have to buy a plane ticket, but maybe I should go south before I go east. There are several people down there that I am in communication with that I would love to see, but thank you so much for the wonderful music, and I want to encourage people to go and visit Badi's Bandcamp page and pick up that album. It is absolutely lovely. Mr. Fabian Brown, always smiling, always holding it down. You're the man. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, Louis.
Yeah.
Thanks for all of you guys hanging around and sticking and just sharing your time and your talent. I really appreciate everyone.
All right, let's pick a song to go out with here. See what I've got. I think we might have played everything. Here's a wonderful. No, here's. That's right. No, everything that was programmed for the day. Here's a wonderful song. Who's familiar with Céline Woman? That's.
Oh, yes.
This is Vivian Sessoms from our home state of New Jersey, and we're gonna say goodnight, and I'm gonna switch over. We're gonna say goodnight to the audience and switch it over and thank everybody for being here. I really appreciate all the fans. Please connect on Bandcamp. Follow your favorite artist. When they post something, reply, talk to them directly, and keep the music alive.
Yeah, we are the web.
That's a great track. I can't figure out how to do this.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, oh. Céline, she drink coffee, she drink tea, and then go home. Céline, Céline woman, dressed in green, wears silk stockings with golden seams. Céline, Céline woman, dressed in red, make a man lose his head. Céline, Céline woman, back dress on for $1,000. She wailing more, not shy. Céline, wiggle, turn like a cat. Wake up, man, she wing back, not shy. Céline, empty his pocket and rack his days, make her home. She fly away. Céline, oh, Céline, oh, hey, hey, Céline woman, oh, Céline woman, Céline, well, silk stockings, golden seams, $1,000 waiting on. Oh, Céline, empty his pockets, make him wish he was dead. Sing, Céline.